Hello, my name is Uncle Tics. I have Tourette's.
These are people who have never had tics before. They don't have a family history of tics, and they're presenting a little bit different than our typical kids with Tourette syndrome. And we feel like it's part of what we call a functional movement disorder, or response to things like stress. The thing that's really interesting is that a lot of these kids have been watching these TikTok videos of other people who are kind of showcasing their tics or their Tourette syndrome. And frequently the tics that we're seeing follow some themes of the same types of tics that are seen in those videos. Certainly the algorithm of the TikTok is going to favor those people who are watching these videos, watching more of them. Typically, when people present with a new onset tic disorder like Tourette syndrome, the tics start off fairly mild and oftentimes stay mild, whereas these people are having really severe onset tics, oftentimes with a lot of what we call coprolalia or swearing, and oftentimes with a lot of self-injurious tics where they're hitting themselves, things like that. And the tics tend to be very disabling right at the onset. People were starting to post in some doctor forums on social media questions about if other people were seeing this type of thing. And the global answer was yes. Over time, several different groups have done case series on this, and those include people really from all over the Western world. Prior to the pandemic, we were seeing kids present with functional type tics once every few months, maybe. Now we're seeing new cases of functional tics 2 to 3 times per week. While you can't prove causation, it's interesting that this seems to have correlated with the onset of the pandemic, when kids were more socially isolated and looking for other forms of social connection, social media being a big part of that, at the same time as dealing with a lot of new stressors and disruption in their typical life and routines. We know that frequently, similar to people who get headaches or stomach aches related to stress, that there is some underlying stress that may be suppressed or some history of traumatic events, although we don't always see that. The other thing that we know is that there may be a genetic predisposition to developing these types of functional movement disorders. From the time we are babies, we are learning how to imitate the behavior, sounds, facial expressions of those around us. That's part of being human and the human experience. One of the things that was really interesting was one of the people who was writing an article on this joked around that after watching so many of the videos, she actually herself was starting to find herself doing some of these tics, because it's such a profound, ingrained human thing to mimic other people's behavior. So certainly we're all predisposed to this. We all do little things like this all the time. This is just problematic for these individuals because it's on such a profound scale.
A dozen teenage girls in Leroy, New York, spontaneously ticking and twitching. They developed the symptoms around the same time in the fall.
We know that people were on Facebook and other social media platforms doing similar things, showcasing their what was going on in their lives. And very interestingly, one of the things that was predictive of those people who got better more quickly was those people who got off social media. Some of the important things they've said is that you can't catch Tourette syndrome which is true. It's not contagious. But I also think that they're in a tough position because this has become their livelihood. This has become a big part of who they are. On one hand, we love advocacy. We love people getting out there and bringing awareness to Tourette syndrome as well as functional neurological disorders. But the challenge is that in this case, it's kind of backfired and created a whole new level of problems. So there's a fine line here. First of all, realize that you're not the only one, that there are a lot of people going through this, that it doesn't mean there's something intrinsically wrong with you, that there's help, that you should go see your doctor, get into some counseling, consider treatment if there's underlying depression or anxiety, and most of all, consider taking a break from social media to see if that helps to decrease the number of tic-like movements you're having.